Hey, this is example number 2 of how to take on a relative clause. And as a side note, just to kind of pick up where we left off in our last video, I looked up chapter 12 in our book about structure classes, and there's a whole section about prepositions. And alas, there it was on our list, the word atop. So I don't know how to do it. I have an idea, but I'm not sure exactly how to do the word atop. And I was thinking of some other examples like from inside the house or from, so we have like from atop the school building and from inside the house. And how would you diagram two prepositions together like that? So, hey, I'm just throwing it out there. Extra credit if you want to figure out how to diagram from atop of the school building. Take a picture of it, send it to me, and I'll see what I can do to get you some extra credit if you can get it to me quickly. I'd love to see it. All right, so the race is on. First 5 people who find a solution or create a solution and send me a picture, I'm giving you some extra credit and maybe even a hug. All right, here we go. Sentence number 2. The problem that he's having is with his paper mache wings. All right, so once again, the very first thing I want to do is I want to figure out where my relative pronoun is or my relative adverb. So I'm hyper focusing on just basically 9 words. It's one of those W words like who, whom, whose, which, what, or that. And then there's those other 3 relative adverbs, when, where, and why. So here's this word that. So this is where it's going to begin. Now, it's either going to go all the way to the end of the sentence or it's going to be sort of middle of the sentence and stop. And this one I can tell you is already going to be in the middle of the sentence because there should always be a full sentence outside of the relative clause. So just listen to what your grammar gut's saying, which says the problem that he is having, and then all of a sudden you go back to the outside sentence. All right, so I'm going to use a different color so I can highlight that for you. Can you hear there's an outside sentence which says the problem is with his paper mache wings? That's your main sentence. The adjective clause or the relative clause is sitting in here. This is your adjective or your relative clause that he's having. And so the reason I know that is because the sentence has to still make sense without it. The problem is his paper mache wings. If I kind of took this orange line and took it all the way to the end, then all I would have left over is the problem. So there has to be a sentence. So here's our adjective or our relative clause that he is having. A couple of things I know about it is I know that it has to have a relative pronoun, or in this case, or a relative adverb. In this case, is a relative pronoun that. Secondly, I know it has to be modifying a noun that's in front of it. And so there's only one noun in front of it, which is the word problem. Remember, what we're saying is the word problem is replacing the word that. They're equal to each other. That, I'm going to sneeze, I can feel it, is equal to the word problem. Sorry. Well, it sounded like a yawn, but it's really just me trying to get rid of the sneeze. All right, let's take on this sentence, which is the problem is with his paper mache wings. All right, so let's build this sentence. So my subject is the word problem. And I'll say it's the problem. And just sticking with the things that are in green. The problem is, and then I have this prepositional phrase with his paper mache wings. So I guess it's kind of lame. I see really bad sentences tonight. I apologize. But I'm going to make a little prep phrase down here. I know it doesn't really bother you all that much, but to me it is because it's trying to be like a pattern 1. The problem is with the wings, but to me it doesn't seem like a pattern 1, but it looks how it's written. Come on, Marsh. Anyway, here's paper mache, which is a noun serving as an adjective. Doing a couple of those tonight, aren't I? All right, so let's put paper mache here, and it's really spelled fancy, isn't it? It's papier, and there's an M, there's an A with a little mountain over top of it, and a CH and an E with a little accent. I feel fancy. I have to button my top button here. All right. So the problem is with his wings, paper mache wings. All right. So secondly, we have this adjective or relative clause. All right. Remember, we're going to diagram him separately. And I'm going to go just side by side. It's real small. And I love starting off my verb. I think starting off with your verb is always a great choice. So here's this is and having. And I know not how to make an I. There we go. I know that is having is going to be the whole verb because an ing can work with a to be verb as long as it's a to be verb. Didn't really come out that smoothly, did it? Let's try this again. An ing is going to be a verb as long as it has a to be verb as its helper. Remember, if it doesn't have a to be verb as its helper, then this becomes the verb and the having turns into a gerund. But is having is the whole verb. And now I look for a subject. And so it should be in front of it. In this case, it's he. He makes sense. So he's our subject. And think about what we've also talked about before, where the relative pronouns renaming the noun. If you take this little math equation we have here, which is problem and that are the same thing, well, where would you naturally put the word problem? Because think about how the word that and problem are the same. So I've got to figure out, where does the word that go? Well, I would say, even though the word that is at the very beginning of the sentence, it's going to move. It's going to shift all the way over here. What you're saying is he is having what? A direct object. He is having a problem, is what you're really saying. And we're going to connect the word that to problem, or we're basically connecting problem to problem. But remember, once again, you don't have the word problem. I always do that, and I know that you don't need to. You don't need to do these baby steps. You're smart enough, kids, that you don't need to do that. You can just simply go straight into writing it. But really what we're saying is he is having that. Remember, there's nothing on these dotted lines, but I'm going to take that word that, I'm going to connect it back to the word it modifies. But really what you're saying is he is having problem. And that's why the word problem naturally sits here, and the word that naturally sits right there. It's perfect. All right. Like I said, I'm not feeling overly confident with this pattern, but I'm going to call it a pattern 1. In the back of my head, I keep thinking that maybe I should have put this up on a tree, but I don't want to go down that road and try to explain why that might be a weird idiom. And so I'm just going to say the problem is with his wings, paper mache wings. I just want you to remember that for a brief moment, we were super fancy because we have papier with a dash and a mountain over the A and an accent on the E. I'm not even sure what language that is. Maybe it's French. I don't know, but I feel fancy. All right, nice job on number 2. Let's pause this video and then let's try the third one.